Hi, Chris.
Hi, Christina.
How's it going?
I am well. It's good to be with you again.
Yes, great to be with you. And I want to jump right in because you told me that today you kind of channeled a topic that's actually very close to me at the moment, which obviously it is for you, which is meditation.
I'm excited about that, and we'll dive in. But the first thing I wanted to cover with you prior to meditation is, um, last night I shared with you that I was having these persistent visions, right, or dreams over the last week, and I don't necessarily remember them until later in the day, and then it's like, oh, right, that happened. So and then I sent you a text message last night asking that, and then your response was like four screens long. So if you don't mind, I'd love to just talk through a little bit how your week has been and what's been a persistent um, notion for you over the past week.
That's very interesting that you bring that up. Well, just to, you know, just lay it out on the table, I've started I started a program with a private mentor to I don't want to say develop my psychic mediumship gifts and all that involves, but because it's already there very, very much, and it has been for a very long time. But it's like starting to organize the hoarding, the hoarding that all these messages are symbols, signs, everything, just to start to organize it and then produce myself as a better channel so that I can help in a larger capacity and move myself forward and move people forward. So that's what I'm doing. But back in March, I had a reading with the psychic medium who's now my mentor. And she said, you really need to document your journey of when you kind of like your awakening that's happening right now. And so it's great that you bring that up because I haven't really done it and it's week one. So you messaged me about some dreams. I messaged you back like, oh my gosh, you have no idea what's happening. So I had my first session with my mentor on Tuesday, and she gave me a lot of homework. So I started right in on the homework. And immediately, just as I'm driving, just boom, numbers, colors, everything. And I know these are messages because I already have like some strong associations with numbers. But I mean, just everything. And I'm just like, what? And I'm driving, right? I'm driving, mind you, and this is happening. And I'm like, I hope I don't wreck. I didn't need to focus, but it was just like boom, 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 boom. And one of my homework assignments is that I have to keep a journal and then a separate signs and symbols catalog so that I can start to understand like what this means when it comes up and everything. And so when I did get to a part of the street where I could pull over, I pulled over and started just jotting down everything I saw that I could remember. And then she wanted me to do the messages attached. I couldn't even think of what the messages were because it was like it chunked up the straw so bad that I couldn't get the milkshake out of it, and it's been every day. That started then, and I'm like, okay. And then I started getting some headaches, and I'm not a person who gets a lot of headaches. I get a headache once every 2 months, maybe, if not that. So I've had headaches, and then Thursday night to Friday morning, I had a sleepless night, but it was different than a sleepless night. I wanted to run through the streets like, wah! I had so much electricity. It wasn't even energy. It was just like static or something. I don't know what it was. And then, so Friday was rough because I had to go to my teaching position, and it was only half a day, but it was rough because I didn't allow myself time to get coffee because I just kind of dragged through the morning. And it was I had already put in on Thursday night a message to my mentor, like, what the heck? No, it was Friday. I put a message in. I was like, this is happening. What's the first step to figure this out? And she hadn't responded yet. So I went through my day and I didn't feel tired. I just felt off. And then I was a little nervous because I had a coaching client coming up on Friday night. And she and I have been working together for a little while now. And so she knows me and everything. So I was like, okay, full disclosure, this is happening. I don't know what's going to happen. And, I just want to make sure that, if something strange happens or I'm not on it tonight, I will refund your money, whatever we need to do to make you feel better, we'll do that. And she was like, oh, it's fine. That's fine. So it's kind of a safe space, right? She's really sweet. And boom, the coaching session of my life happened, and it was different. It was insane, and it was so clear. And it's her messages, so I can't really speak about them, and I don't like to carry them around anyway. But the clarity of what came through and the specific things, and it wasn't just dead people. It wasn't dead people at all. It was like just her own signs and symbols, and I just knew what they all meant. And she was so impressed that she actually tipped me $50 afterwards. I don't get tips. I'm a coach. But she was that like, oh my gosh. And before I thought I was a pretty good coach. And then now this stuff's happening. It's like, I guess, wow, this is the way forward. And then I had the best sleep of my life after that, because I think it was like I relieved the pressure. And
you finally got some of that milkshake.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That milkshake came right in, and it relieved some of the pressure, and I slept. And then yesterday I had a very busy day. I kind of like knew that some meditative care, this comes into our topic, was needed. I knew that things were starting to come in again, and my mentor had responded. And I'll say what she said in just a minute, but no surprises there. And then I had a weird sleep last night. So I had like maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and it was that energy again where I was just like wanting to electrify the streets of Long Beach, California. Naked. No, not naked.
Who judge me here?
So that was a long-winded answer to your question, but yes, that is what is happening to me. And I do have some commitments today to others, not intuitive related directly. I don't have any coaching clients today, but I can tell that today I'm going through some spiritual boot camp. Mm-hmm. That was kind of long overdue. That'll relieve the pressure and help the milkshake come up the straw again. Yeah, Chris.
That's great. So question for you, and this is for the broader audience, is so there's the newness, right? Or this it's like this up leveling that has happened for you, where all of a sudden all these signs and wonders were just, like coming at you. And so part of it's like, wow, look at all these great toys I can play with. And then the other part is overwhelming. So how are you developing authority over when it's appropriate to receive, so that you're not always on? Because there's the human side of this as well.
That's a good question, because that's the problem. Therein lies the problem. That's what my mentor told me, was like that, which is weird. I mean, that you're getting this information, I guess it's logical, but my mentor told me that it's like I've got the vacancy light on and the antenna is up. So it's like and everyone's just like boom, 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 everything, whatever it is. I don't even know what it is yet. But she did tell me that I did have to turn it on and off and be very clear about like my working hours, mm-hmm. like when I'm able to receive. And I thought I turned it off last night, but I still had a bad sleep. And I was like, why do I have so much electricity in me? But I think it's self-care. And I think it's spiritual work and spiritual downloads that are backed up for my own personal development. At this point, I think I've figured that out. So, yeah. Now, question for you, Chris. you were provoked to suddenly ask me in relation to some dreams that you've been having. Do you think that there's a relationship, because we are in a professional relationship? Do you think there was a correlation between what was happening in your dreams, or just the fact that you were dreaming and it was very, profound for you, and what I've been going through?
I think I can't think of a better word for this. This just, and so mind you, the date today is, what is today?
30th of August, 2020.
2020. Right. So we're like post COVID, second increase, elections coming up. BLM is a significant issue. Fires, earthquakes. There's all of this, right? And so there's this rapid transformation that's taking place, and then there's just a lot of like energetic work that's going on. So I think there's a correlation between all of us being in this position where we're receiving or it's feeling unsteady. And I know that, Meredith is very much feeling the same way. There's this unsteadiness and this lack of certainty. And this is going back to what is coronavirus or COVID present to us by way of being more of a divine teacher than a virus itself. So I think there's this shared experience that we have where it's as if there's this jelly in a petri dish that we get to play with. And that's the shared experience that we have. And I'm glad that we have each other to be able to bounce these things off of. Right. But I know there are just people that I just, feel connected with, like like where it's really just a tight, clear pipe, if you will. And you were one of them. So it does not or would not surprise me if I'm getting something that you're noodling on, and we're working on something not here and here, but up here together, right? So that sounds a little esoteric, but there's the corporal relationship that we have, and then the energetic relationship that we would have as well, right? So I'm sure that while we are having this conversation, our higher selves are just up there smiling and giggling and noodling on a whole bunch of other bigger, broader issues.
They are, I can tell. Yeah. They are. It's happening. But yeah, no, I think you're right. My mentor also mentioned to me, she was like, by November, you're going to be doing readings, which I do coaching now, which is quite intuitive, and I get a lot of information, but that's the psychic in me versus the medium in me. And I think that my weakness is mediumship, even though I really have it, and I've had it come up all the time. And she said by November, she said something about November. I wish I remember what it was. But she said in November, there's going to be like a big shift for all of us. You, me, everybody. So November is like the big time.
Election time.
Which every day is a big time. I started listening to Shar Margolis, I think her name is. She's a psychic medium, which is interesting that I started her book before I started with my mentor, because she's a psychic medium, and all she does is mediumship for the most part.
So pause. Can you put a pin in that really quick? What's the difference between a psychic and a medium?
Good question. A psychic can be this is how my mentor told me. A medium is psychic, but a psychic is not always a medium. Psychic is someone, I don't want to use the word predictions, but it's like intuitive, can kind of tap into other forms of information and other areas that maybe is not so apparent in a book that's laying in front of you. Yeah, just that general intuition. And most people are psychic at some capacity, and I always say it's like kind of like a marathon runner, right? Some people are born to run, and then everybody technically can run in some capacity, but are they equipped to run a marathon? No. Well, you need training. First of all, any marathon runner is going to train. And then, but some people are just built for running better, right? But everyone's psychic. It's the same thing, and you can develop it. And, I do think that I was a marathon runner in the psychic world. I've always been intuitive, that's for sure, about everything. Not like, oh, how many jelly beans are in the jar? Nothing like that. It's more of like, I will meet a person and I'll be like, I don't like that person. I don't want to be around that person. It's that kind of thing. Or you're walking down the street and you're like, don't go down that street. And you just don't go down that street. And that's psychic. Medium. A medium is someone who connects to spirits who have passed on. So talking to dead people and dead entities and, previously here on the planet. That's the difference.
So when I was doing a little prep work coming into this morning, Christina, what came through was meditation, which is not the topic that I had in mind coming into today, but that's why we can pivot. And I would like to understand your relationship with meditation, because I did run across one of your TikTok meditations, and I was like, oh, this is just beautiful. It was just nice to sink in and slip into. So I'm going to turn it over to you and just have you start talking through how and why. I would love to understand when you started meditating with intention, and then when you were younger, or like little Christina, when you look back at it now, when were you actually meditating without consciously meditating?
Feel free to chime right in, because I hope I don't talk too much. But starting in on what you just said, I started meditating a long time ago. I was maybe 15 or 16 years old when my mother went to a psychic medium party that she was randomly invited to on a Saturday morning for a Saturday night. Didn't even know the hairdresser. Hairdresser didn't really know her as like more than just like an acquaintance at that time. Goes there, the psychic medium starts talking about her dead brother, David. How would you know that? This is before Google. This is in the early 90s. And after that, like, it blew me away. I wanted a reading right away, but I was too young, 18. But that started everything. And then I found, I think when I was 18 or 19, first of all, I went right away. Everybody gets like a tattoo or cigarettes when they turn 18. I went to a psychic reading because I was like, finally. So I started buying Sylvia Brown's books. I think I've mentioned her before. Sylvia Brown, she was like a very like gruff speaking psychic medium that she was on Montel all the time. She had like this brassy golden hair. It was like kind of orange almost, and it was like it framed her face. She wrote a lot of books, and I remember doing my first meditation through a CD that was in one of the books, and I still do that meditation. It just really stuck with me, and it gave me so much. And I remember after that, I just felt elevated. I didn't really have any words to describe it. Maybe I still don't, but I felt elevated, and it changed my life. And then I just started meditating all the time. I'm a university student at this point. And then I bought her past life regression book, and that blew me away. And I still lead people through past life regressions, not within my coaching sessions at the moment, and I don't want to say it as a hobby, but as in when I feel like people should go back for fun or for a little bit of answers, I want them to experience that, because anybody can. I can see past lives. I do it all the time, but it's another thing to lead someone through the experience of one of their past lives. And you can go through any past life you want. Your hardest one, which is the first one I ever did. You can go through your easiest one, your most fun, one where you learn the most, one where you're the most spiritual, et cetera, et cetera. It's just exciting me as I'm talking, and it's just so amazing. And Chris, I have to do one with you where we Zoom call and you go into it and and do one, because I mean, you have that ability already, but I don't know. I feel like I want to lead you through the experience.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I would love to do that. And what's interesting is how you're as passionate about that as I am about the space in between.
Okay. Give it to me, buddy.
So the space in between being, why did we choose that particular expression and what were the goals going into it? Um, and it could all be fantastical storytelling, right? And that's fine too. So when I've led people on this in between lives journey,
Yeah.
it's it's storytelling. And so sometimes people are challenged, or I'm challenged, and like, what am I receiving? Is this right? Am I doing this the right way? And like, just tell me a story, right? Just let's just start there, and then just starting to allow that to come through. And it's one thing, and I'm not trying to minimize past life regression at all, and it's very powerful. So that is an experience for sure. It's another experience almost entirely to go to the space in between, where it's my belief that we have some agency in selecting to be Chris McCann with these parents, and this is your choose your own adventure book. Now go have fun. And like, what am I working on? What commitments did I make, right? To be able to be of service, and to work with other people that are here, and then what am I going to receive? And these little connections is just an amazing experience. So likewise, I'll do that with you, and maybe we could record it and just do that as
Great. Because
like a
you do
super,
respond out loud.
right.
Then yeah, it's good to record anyway, so that you have a record of your answers, because sometimes you don't remember.
Right. Okay. So that's a date. So that'll be a podcast coming soon. Is one, you doing a past life regression on me, and then I would do a in between lives regression with you.
That would be awesome, because you've really sparked my curiosity. So you're in between lives. So you're talking about between when you're carnate, like you're on the earth, right?
That's an example. Yeah. Or wherever you
Okay.
are. Right. Yes.
But also consciously here at the moment, right?
Yes. Well, I'll share a story with you.
Okay, good. I want to hear it.
The first time that this came into my awareness, I was in my treehouse in Santa Monica when that was still a thing, um, meditating, and I saw this alcove, and it was dark. And in this alcove was like a sandstone statue, where in the right hand of this, so it had like a cardinal's hat, and in the right hand it had a staff with it, like a shepherd's hook. And then I was like, yeah, I get it. Like, Christianity, old ways of thinking and operating, crumbling. Yeah, super amazing, whatever. And so, and then I just, kind of dismissed it. And then this statue, as it was crumbling, just receded back into where it came from.
Huh.
Then enter stage right, this man who's wearing tan pants and a white shirt and kind of long brown hair. And there was, I'm backing up. So after that disappeared, I looked to the right, and there was this golden bowl sitting on top of this black table, and it looked like the table was almost watery on the top of it. And this golden bowl was just sitting there. And then in comes the gentleman walking from stage, I guess it'd be stage left. And he walks over to the bowl and grabs whatever's in there and starts eating it, and is kind of like super casual, and I was like, why is he eating himself? Right? So I made this like immediate connection to Jesus. And he looks at me, he's like, well, come on. He's like, come with me. And I was like, all right. So we walked into this space beyond the bowl, and kind of like through the alcove. and into what looked like this communication center. And and in this communication center, there were screens everywhere. Have you seen the show Westworld?
No.
Okay, so in the show Westworld, it's like an air traffic control. At least the first couple of seasons, where they have like this hologram instance of the park, and you can see people's activity that are like on the board, or where there's flare ups and stuff like that. So it was kind of like that, but on the sides there were these huge like television screens, and so on these huge television screens there were just like movies, and it was not three-dimensional. It was as if, and maybe with your guys, they had these like play school mats where you would be able to like drive little cars around on them, and stuff like that. So they would have these like little, where you could like drive little play school cars, and it was like this diorama sort of. And then I'd see like some of them were really busy, and it was like urban settings, and some were out in the country. And he looked at me and he's like, well, he's like, where do you want to go? He's like, there's no shortage of places to help. And at that point I just freaked out and came out of my meditation, right? It's like, I was like, what just happened? What's cool is that I can get back there, right? And so there's this real relationship with that, and now I have an understanding of, it's like, okay, so you've self-selected, like it's like a video game, and that's just like, okay, I'm going to choose stamina, strength, right? And you have this like continuum where you can like move different traits around. And that was the first time I had experienced the possibility of being able to select where I wanted to go and how I wanted to help and what I wanted to learn.
So was this an experience that explains how you chose to be Chris, or an experience that you're living right now where it's like, oh, if I want to choose power and strength, I can do it right now?
Interesting that you asked that. So the first revelation was, this is how and why you chose to be Chris, and this is the experience. So like I'm your guy, right? We're doing this together, and it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is Jesus or anything like that. It was like maybe like a notion of that Christ-like figure, but it was more like peer level. And I just went back just to go get like a tune-up or something, and was coming back, or just to see the experience. I do think, right, also that there's still the ability to go back and download other traits or skills.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's I don't know if I shared this with you before, but there was, I was reading this thing with Robert Peng, and Robert Peng is a Qigong instructor, teacher, master. And he went into this cave or somewhere, his master like put him in this room for 40 days, and like he didn't eat, all he had was water. I'm like, wow, I'd love to, like, what a neat experience to have to go through that sort of deprivation. And I was like, well, I don't really have to go do that. Why can't I just download an experience where I did something like that before? So it's like you get the benefits of like these other experiences that you may have had, even if you're just imagining it. And then taking the downloads and the learnings, and then just bringing them into your toolkit today.
Well, very related to past life regression, because I've gone into past lives where I was extremely spiritual as monk or whatever, and it helped me recall those things that have already occurred, and that I can access that information about myself and then about the subject matter a little bit better, so that my human experience now can be embellished with what I've already gone through. So yeah, that really resonates with me. I'm glad you said that, because I'm totally going to do work on that. Because now I'm like intrigued. I'm going in with a mission. Mm-hmm. I want to see my room. I think I have a version of that, like a version of that room. But yours is very like, beep, 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 like TVs and Mine is I don't know. I don't think it's a room. I think it's like a lakeside area. So it's a different thing. Further go off of that. What about you? Because you asked me when I first started meditating. What about you?
I worked for a gentleman in my last job, which was with a German software company, and it was pre Series A, so it was a startup and new in the U.S., established in Germany, and I have ADHD. I don't take anything for it. I just I work through it, and I have a better understanding now of how and where that shows up, and where it can be debilitating or where it has been debilitating, and then how to use that as a strength in other situations. So just having an awareness around it. But I tend to move really fast, and a lot of energy, right? So and then doing things now, because I know that if I don't do them now, or at least I feel like if I don't say what's on my mind, like I'm going to forget it, or if I don't do something now, I'm going to forget to do it. And he called me one day and he's like, Chris, you got to slow the fuck down. He's like, you are making mistakes. I love you. He's like, but this is killing you. And he's like, you just need he's like, I don't know what you need to do. Do you need to like start like meditating? And I've been trying to meditate. So there's the Headspace app. I tried that. I tried Muse, the band that goes on and you hear little birds when you're in your alpha waves are in a certain state. In beta waves, it's kind of a cool tool, but then I would find myself focusing on the birds. Like, why might I get enough bird chirping? I mean, it was this interesting rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so I had to find something. Like sitting out in the backyard and meditating for longer than 2 or 3 minutes was so painful. Like I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be. Like, why do thoughts keep coming in? Right. Like, I mean, I just needed to be able to stop thinking. And I don't know how I even came onto this. But like, oh, try transcendental meditation. Like
Oh,
it wasn't even a recommendation. It was like try and for me then it was like, oh my God, the Maharishi and the Beatles. And I was like, I don't feel like joining a cult, thanks. But I walked into the Santa Monica facility and did one of the about TM sort of things, and I was like, oh, this might work. So the concept or the operating theory is that you don't control your thoughts, right? You're given a mantra or a word, and then you just keep saying the word over and over again. You don't have to worry about your breath. You don't have to worry about thoughts coming in. Just come back to the mantra and just start noodling through things. And I'm oversimplifying, but with the idea of being able to kind of get beneath the waves and start noticing. And that to me made the most sense. And it's like, oh, I don't have to control my thoughts. I can just sit for 20 minutes and just come back to the mantra. And that for me was liberating. And that turned on everything, even the work that I'm doing today, because it then started to clear out this pipe of information that I was able to then begin to start accessing and receiving insights or not. And then sometimes just having a difficult time, doing it for 20 minutes. But transcendental meditation was my gateway into having a better relationship with meditation, period. So then, I start playing with it, and sometimes I'll do meditation where I'll go into the records. Sometimes I'll do meditation with different frequencies, like if it's 528, or if it's 5 megahertz, or 4 megahertz, or 20. It just depends on so I'm just trying all these different sounds and vibrations and playing with those. And what I found when we moved to San Luis Obispo and I lost my my treehouse, so that's where I would go, right? So I had this separate little space where I'd be able to go, and I could count on being quiet and left alone for however long I wanted to go up there. If it's 10 minutes or an hour or 2 hour or whatever, is that last week I'm like, oh my God, I forgot how to meditate. Like I can't even do this anymore. I would just sit there and it was the most frustrating experience. Like I just couldn't get myself to let go. And it's like, wow. So finally this week, I've been able to do that, but it's also been in conjunction with me, and us just not feeling settled where we are in terms of the actual physical space. Um, but just coming back to this place where, there's nothing to really do. And this is like early pandemic again for me, where there's nothing for you to do. Let's just be. And releasing any sort of control over expectations or outcomes. And for someone that has a lot of anxiety, like myself, and this goes back like, little infant Chris, the anxiety and the ADHD and those things. Um, when I view anxiety or these challenges that I would have in meditation as trying to be in more than one place at the same time. It's like, oh, why am I trying to be in 7 places right now? And then that just kind of brings me back to just, okay, mantra or breath, or if I'm working with energy and just, and just trying to clean out the pipes, or if I'm trying to project or whatever the exercise might be for that day, is anxiety is trying to be in more than one place at the same time. And that to me is something I have to remind myself to come back to.
Right. You said right before you were like, oh, we're never going to talk about meditation. But actually, you did exactly what you should have done. And here's why, because I think it's so important that you tell about this kind of meditative journey that you have been on, and the struggle and the discoveries and things like that, because I think that this resonates with a lot of people. Meditation is easy for some, but hard for others. And I think that there are so many people being called to meditate and they don't really know how. And just for you to say that you struggled with attention and, finding the right way, it's the same thing that everyone is, many people are experiencing right now. And I started a meditation group for that reason. Exactly. Anybody, for people like you, people like others that don't really know how to meditate, and most importantly, don't take the time for themselves, because meditation is the ultimate act of self-care. It is very, very, to me, it's crucial. And I don't even do it enough. And you don't even do it enough. Like you can't have a perfect person who's perfect at it all the time. And so that's something that I really, really think is important for anyone who's listening. It's like, you don't have to be perfect at it, and you can drop it for a while and pick it back up, and you can't have any guilt around it. You can't be like, oh, I should have done that. I can't have any regret. So I started the meditation community because a lot of people don't know how to meditate, and I wanted to create a safe space for people who are interested, but they don't. We do it through Zoom, and we don't even you don't even have to turn on your camera or microphone. And I've had people that just kind of ghost in and ghost out, and that's the way I want it. Now, there's some people that are very active. And, for the first 10 minutes, we wait for everybody to kind of come in. So we, talk, the people who want to talk, we just, kind of catch up, and then we go into it. And there are different levels of meditators, but what I have noticed about the people who come to the group in general, everyone is insecure about their meditation level, no matter how much experience. I have like a seasoned vet meditative woman who still is like, well, I'm not sure. And so I channel the meditation. So I take them on some journeys, but also I am just my own intuitive power. I magnify others, and that helps for them to keep their concentration a little bit longer. So my meditations that I lead them through are 15, 20 minutes. But when they tell me, oh, I tried meditating through the week, because I always like, okay, you know, I'm always like, guys, try to meditate at least once a week, once after this. And then, you know, if you come back next week, that's twice that you've done it in 1 week, right? And they come back and they're like, you know, I just find when I'm alone, it's hard to keep myself in it for longer than 5 minutes. I'm like, that's okay. Even just stopping. And that's why I did the TikTok video. Even just stopping for a minute, closing your eyes, bring your awareness in. And when you say bring your awareness in, it just means to think about yourself, to focus in on yourself, focus in on, how would I describe it? I sometimes lead people to do it into the heart center, right? Where you're thinking about your heart. Even if you don't know what a heart center is, you're thinking about your heart. You're not thinking about the outside world anymore. So you experienced transcendental meditation. That's pretty hardcore from what I heard. I've never even done it. Oh. But on the other side of it, it's like some people meditate with breath work. Mm-hmm. Some people do visualizations. Some people do, you know, a mantra or a repeated word. Some people just close their eyes and let their mind drift. And all of those things, to me, are meditations. And yeah.
So that's, as you're talking, I wrote something down.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, I don't know. So transcendental meditation to me seems so not hardcore.
Oh, okay.
In that, like, breath work to me is like work, right? Like if I have to do like that diaphragmatic, like, oh, I just want to get there.
Yeah.
Right. So I just want to skip the drive and just get to where I want to go. And not knocking it. It's, and I've done it before. It's beautiful.
Doesn't your wife Meredith do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yin and yang.
Right. Oh, totally. If I'm the jellyfish, she's the owl. It was really when I began to be comfortable sitting with myself. Right. And before, before Chris, so like, let's say before the age of 35, like sitting with myself and having to sort through my thoughts was scary and debilitating. Like I did not want to sit and have any sort of conversations around the type of person I was, how I was showing up in the world, because I didn't like it. And if I sat with myself, then nope. Like I'd rather go put that attention somewhere else and then, you know, drink a half a bottle of vodka and then wake up and do it all over again the next day.
Wow.
Just to not have to deal with any of that. And what the meditation has opened up for me is the desire to want to go in and clean up. And I think maybe I mentioned this last week, but just going in and cleaning up and making room for what's next is great. So even if I'm sitting there for 20 minutes and I'm kind of in and out, or I'm not getting anywhere, there's no there, and I don't like kind of like fall into that super alpha wave state, that's still the work, right? You're still, because there's just processing that just needs to happen, or thoughts that need to unwind or whatever. But the more, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in that sense, and that the more willing I am to sit with myself, right, without judgment and filled with compassion as much as I can, then the more that opens up. And that's what meditation has done for me. I could do it in a cab. I could do it on an airplane. It's been great for if I like travel to Europe for work or something, where I can, or the Middle East, I can just like, it helps with jet lag. Like being able to take those little 20-minute power naps, if you will. It's like, oh, it's a reset. Then I can go for a couple more hours.
Wow. And
it feels indulgent. I don't sit in a lotus position in the back of a cab or in a cafe somewhere in Dubai. It's just closing my eyes and just sitting and just allowing myself to just, and it's almost like a guilty pleasure in that sense, because I'm carving out time for not my kids, not my wife, not my team, not my employer, nobody else except for me. And then that's more work, and that we deserve that. And there's a lifetime's worth of stuff that you can work through. But to answer your question is, I used to lay. I had such a beautiful childhood, and I had a lot of latitude because my mom was always busy. My dad was sleeping when I was awake, and vice versa. So it was just me, and then a little bit later on, my brother. And my sister was doing her own thing, and my sister and I get along great, but we were like Irish twins, so there was no real interaction when we were growing up, or no real relationship rather. But I would like lay in the front yard and watch clouds go by, or I found a creek behind a friend's house, the neighborhood that I grew up in, and we just go sit down there and sit and just watch the water go by. And I had all these beautiful experiences. Church, I grew up Catholic, right? So going to church and then just, like saying like 5,000 Hail Marys, and just where it goes like muscle memory. And then you would kind of get into this like trance-like state where everything just flies by. So I had all these different exposures to different forms of meditation without necessarily understanding that that's what that was. So it was cool how, even coming into this existence, and it was like, oh, here, remember this one? Remember this one? So it was like planting all these little seeds, or putting all these little hooks in me, where, I then would begin to connect the dots as I got a little bit older, fortunately, and being able to understand, or at least have the context that this is an awareness that I did bring with me, right? Like I would lay in bed. This is back when we had bookstores. Like I would ride my bike to the mall in Jackson, Michigan. I'd go to the bookstore. I'd go to the like New Age section, I think is what it was called. Or no,
Yes.
It was called the occult. It was called the occult section.
Oh, you're a little older than me, because by the time I got to that section, it was New Age. I've never seen it as a cult.
It was definitely the occult section. And finding books, I'm like, I want to learn how to have out of the body experiences. And I was probably like 13 or 14 or something.
Oh, that was way before me. Like, as in before I was even in that bookstore. Yes. Wow.
But there was no cable. Like, how would I even like think that? Right. And I'd go buy books and like ESP, and like I'd try and predict cards. And I remember trying to do this, and I'd be so frustrated. Like I couldn't actually figure out what the other card was, or trying to have these out of the body experiences. So I was working through like chakras. I was like lighting up the colors without knowing that that's what that was. But I was lighting up these energy centers because I just would like read the book. I'm like, okay, now do this. And I was like overthinking it. And and it didn't work. Like I didn't levitate out of my body and go anywhere, because that was a very literal translation, right? Like this is the experience that I was expecting to have. Turns out that it's not literally what happens, and I don't know. I'm very fortunate that I had the parents that I had, because they would just let me go into the basement and just try all these things, not necessarily knowing what I was doing, But come to think of it, and I think I do remember where that came from. This house that we grew up in, well, not grew up in, but it was a house that we had when I was little. Like I was in Jackson, Michigan for most of my life. But there was like a year or two where I think we were between like Battle Creek, where I was born, in Kalamazoo, as my dad was managing Sherwin-Williams paint stores, before he went back to work at the bakery. And awful nightmares and dreams in this house. Like I don't remember anything prior to this house, but I certainly remember really awful things happening in the house that we were in. I would hear voices all the time, like downstairs, and like people would come in to my room and just like start talking, and like they weren't there, and I'd run into my parents' room like, no, there's nothing there, and I'm like, oh, there sure as shit is. But there was another one where I got physically moved. Like I was actually lifted off of my bed and placed somewhere else in my room. And I'm like, not happening. It's a dream. Not happening. Nope, 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 nope. And then I woke up the next morning in that spot, and I was like, what? Like, and I was probably like 5, maybe like 5, 6, somewhere in there.
Trippy.
Right. It was not pleasant. Actually, that was the name of the street that it was on. It was Pleasant Street. Unpleasant experiences in Pleasant Street. And so And then when Meredith and I were back in Grand Haven, Michigan, visiting my parents, maybe it was last summer or the summer before, and I had done a workshop in Chicago, like records workshop, and we had like maybe 10 or 12 people sitting there, and my dad was just like, how did you like? What do you? How did you even begin to do this? And he's like, when did you know? And I was like, well, I said, remember the house we used to live on in Pleasant Street? And he's like, and he's like, I told you that there was something wrong with that house. And he's like, that's why I wanted to get out of there. And I was like, ha, so I'm not nuts. But this is not anything that we actually talked about. Right. But my dad's mom, as I'm saying this, my dad's mother would actually, she was able to have conversations with certain people in a nonverbal way. So like you would hear like someone saying like, yes, like, yep. And then like nothing would come. So it was like they were having conversations with each other telepathically, but no, like only words would come out sometimes. So as I'm saying this, like I totally forgot about that, but there was something there just in the ancestral DNA.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I didn't have anything traumatic happen to me.
That was the same grandmother that I talked about earlier in our shows that appeared and sat at the end of the bed.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. All right, Loretta.
So you do have some lineage. Now, I mean, just a little bit about that. I don't know anybody who has that in my family, except I do know my mother also has like an intuitive nature with people. So I do think I got it from her. But before you were talking about the Pleasant Street, you were talking about how you can drop into meditation anywhere. And that is one of my big principles of meditation is like, you don't have to have the perfect conditions to do it. And I want people to understand that. That's a big thing. Yeah, meditation is just something I've really become passionate to help and spread to others. So I want you to know that you don't have to be in a quiet room, in a dark room at a certain time of day, with incense and the sounds or anything like that. No, you can do it anywhere, and you're the prime example. And I do the same thing. I think my best meditations are actually in my car and while I'm walking, like exercising. I'll drop in to my other space. Oh, wow. No problem. So easily while I'm walking. It happens. Yeah. And I don't want to admit that it happens while I'm driving, but it does. And I do operate the vehicle safely, but I just have brain explosions while I'm driving. It's just amazing.
Wow. So you're, wow. So like movement meditation, like most people would think of yoga, right?
Yes.
You can be like walking through the woods or gardening or qigong or just any other.
Yeah. I mean, there's like thousands of ways anybody can do a meditation. There are proven ways where you can actually go to the master of that craft, like a transcendental meditation expert or a master in Qigong or anything like that. But then, so, I mean, I'm also exploring those things myself, but I know that just to meditate, you don't have to have any training. You just have to know you can do it anywhere and just sit quietly. That's the minimum. That's all you need.
So there's no arriving though, right? Like there's no, and I'm asking, not telling, where you can just automatically meditate like a Zen Buddhist monk and sit for 5 hours.
I do that.
Do you really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was a period of time, and this is all intuitive, like what I need. So it's like an intuitive as needed basis. And I feel like I'm about to come up on a kind of period. And I feel like today I might do a multi-hour one. And it usually happens on a Saturday morning. I guess maybe that's that's when I start to do it. I mean, that's when I have time, but that's when I can drop in, no problem. And I do prepare, my area. I do like a certain kind of sound. And actually, usually I get told that I should have like Tibetan monks chanting or the throat singing, that really, it's that vibration really does something to me. So I know that that's what I need at that time. But I do have incense, and that helps as well for this kind of meditation. And then I'll drop in, and I always have a notebook ready. Sometimes I'm writing information that I need to know. It's almost like I'm answering myself. But sometimes I'll just sit there and I will just be deep and nothing will be happening in my brain. And I can sit there and time will pass and I will be there for 5 hours, and I even get up for bathroom breaks, but I'm still in it. Like, it's not like I'm dropping out or anything. And I've done 5-6 hour meditations, and
Wow.
but when I've done them, the purpose of them was very clear to me, in its spiritual downloading and attunement, like my own kind of thing. And now I'm not aware of any of the energetic information that's happening, but I know it's happening. So I do sit there. Sometimes like all of a sudden, and it's all like a big process. So sometimes I'm writing something, but usually in those big marathon times where I'm meditating for multiple hours, nothing, like I'm not writing or anything, and I will be blank for a while and just in like just an energy, like a mode where I'm just present. I'm just there. And then all of a sudden, I'll have some burst of like creativity of what I should be doing. And then goes back down to nothing again. I don't have to write them down. I usually recall them. And yeah, it's a weird experience that I never had to read in a book. I just listened to myself, and that's what I know I need. And I think one's coming up today. I don't think it's going to be 5 hours. I'm feeling like more like 1 or 2.
Wow.
Yeah.